Hello everyone, I'm Amanda Dianucci and I'm going to be talking to you about storytelling, conflict resolution, psychology, and neuroscience. Did you know that by telling someone a story, instead of spewing out a mouthful of data, that you can engage a much larger portion of their brain? The art of storytelling has a psychological and neurological basis that scientifically explains the natural human predilection for narrative. A vast portion of a person's brain is activated during the listening to and telling of a story. For instance, the amygdala hippocampal system, which is responsible for preliminary encoding of episodic and autobiographic memories, is engaged. The left perisylvian region, where language is created, is engaged. And also, it has been proven that the same sections of a brain lights up when a storyteller or the respective listener interacts. Quite simply, narrative engages the entire human brain, the entire human experience. If a string of words can affect a person in such a profound way, how powerful can the art of story be? Stories can heal, stories can teach, stories can inspire, stories can enlighten, stories can resolve. For my master's thesis here at Gallatin, I am exploring the power of story in relation to conflict resolution and peacemaking. Story is an influential tool which can mold the most obstinate of minds by means of appealing to an individual's pathos. By using story as a communication tool, a past misunderstanding can be made into a relatable situation. There has been ample evidence of storytelling in a multitude of cultures around mankind. Individuals and societies of all sorts intertwine narratives from oral folklore and hunter-gatherer tribes to the numerous starving writers here in New York City typing away their stories to become movies, Broadway plays, television shows. According to Schifrin, the stories that we tell about our own and others' lives are a pervasive form of text through which we construct, interpret, and share experience. We dream in narrative, daydream in narrative, anticipate, hope, remember, despair, gossip, learn, hate, and love by narrative. We do all of these things through narrative. Storytelling has been used to foster peace in a number of conflict-ridden areas around the globe. So, why are stories so fantastically successful in helping reduce conflict? Stories relate how a series of events occur, whether fictitious or not. Additionally, a story does not only list these series of events, but it illustrates how these events interact. According to Vanderbroek, the goal of narrative comprehension is to construct a memory representation which the various individual parts of the narrative are connected in meaningful ways. So, believe it or not, there's a researcher named Michael Jackson at the University of Copenhagen, and he argues that storytelling offers insights into the way people evaluate, discuss, and negotiate social and ethical strategies for making communal life viable in war as well as in peace, specifically in Sierra Leone where conflict is high. The study Jackson performed focuses on storytelling with the Karanko people in Sierra Leone. Throughout his storytelling sessions, the stories told held great political and social significance to the people involved. And during some of the storytellers sometimes gave the listeners a chance to participate in their story. This participatory aspect of this approach gave the listeners a chance to truly understand the ethical implications of the politically charged story. Jackson proclaims that storytelling does not always work toward a unified opinion of a situation. However, simply by its being a shared accent of singing together, sitting together, speaking, sharing various viewpoints, that makes possible the momentary semblance of a fusion of disparate and often undisclosed private experience. The study concludes that the mutual sharing of stories make the participants feel more inclined to be committed to their community. In addition, the very act of participating in a shared event and referring separate experiences to a common source promotes not necessarily a unified opinion, but a strong bond within community ties. Storytelling promotes the concept of civil society, free people discussing their common issues, and it provides individuals the opportunities for individual expression in a group setting. A similar technique has been used and studied in the case of conflict between Israeli and Palestinian Israeli students. Bar-On discusses the conflict is very much rooted in how each side sees the other as perpetrator and themselves as the victim. For the first few sessions, the meetings of the group spent a significant amount of time fighting over which side was or had been more victimized by the other. The storytelling approach used in this workshop made it possible for the two groups to acknowledge aspects of the other stories that up until the workshop had been unknown to them or difficult for them to understand or accept. In her journal, a Palestinian female student wrote, "When Israelis spoke about her father's feelings of not being at home in Israel, I could identify with that feeling. For the first time, I felt that the Israelis are not only enemies, but have similar feelings to those I have," end quote. The stories that they told helped the group move beyond this victim-perpetrator dynamic and into an arena of acceptance. Stories provide a pathway of connection for an individual or a community's values, principles, hopes, fears, and dreams that enthuses respect and acceptance in the listener. Stories are vehicles that navigate intellectual understanding, but additionally, the heart and soul of the reader, the listener, the inner mind's eye. Thank you.